We're going to start out talking about drawing. Okay, I did not announce that. yeah, I get a few boos. But this is the part of the class that you drawers will enjoy the best. And I teach a lot of classes, and I teach a lot of painting classes. And yes, in every single painting class I've ever taught, I've thought, I don't say this, of course, but I go, oh, darn, I wish this was a drawing class. 99, 95, way over 90% of the problems that typically people have with their paintings are, in fact, drawing problems. Okay, so if you can draw well, you can paint. Now, just by way of disclaimer, I don't know what comes to mind when you think of drawing class, but just for what it's worth, here's what we are not going to do. No, we're not going to do that, okay? So this is probably, I don't know if you've ever taken a drawing class, but even if you had, this is going to be different, probably. I'm not trying to be different, it just turns out that way. I've been an artist my whole life. My dad was a good painter, so by the time I went off to kindergarten, I thought I was God's gift to the art world. And so I've been the kid in, maybe some of you were the kid in the class, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 11th grade, who was the class artist. That was me. And so I've always been good at drawing. So for me, the adventure, the discovery has been trying to figure out, why isn't everybody else good at drawing? What is it that my mind is doing that evidently, like my wife, that most people's minds are not doing. Okay, so that's been my challenge, and we're going to be talking, and this will be done before lunch. But we're going to spend a significant part of our time. Again, I hope before lunch, but a significant part of our time talking about how our mind works, or how our mind ought to work in order to be an artist. Okay? Now, if some of you in here, if you're crackerjack drawers, then this will just be a time of self-discovery. You'll go, oh, well, that's why I'm a good drawer. Or that's why other people get me. Okay? That's all right. Those of you who struggle with drawing, you're also going to find out, I can't turn you into a good drawer in the next 2.5, 3 hours. But I can set you on the right road. One of the things I have discovered is that if I'm standing at a fork in the road, I'm standing here, and a person wants to become a good artist, not, again, 99, these are not scientific numbers, you understand. 99% of the time, the person standing here at Go and at a fork in the road will take the wrong fork. They will go pelting down this road hard, and fast as they can, not realizing they're actually pelting down the wrong road. Okay? Most of the time, the direction you want to go is this way. That's going to come up quite a bit, by the way, for the next 3 days. For many of you, good painting is not what, in my opinion, is not what most people think it is. Even what most painting students think it is. And we'll tackle that, by the way, as soon as we finish drawing. So let's talk about drawing. Drawing is you have in front of you, I handed out a small stack of very expensive paper from Staples or Home Depot or Walmart, who knows, and also a pencil, either a charcoal pencil or a soft lead pencil. That's because I didn't tell you to bring anything for drawing with, so I have to supply it for you. Did you get something?
This watercolor pencil for mine.
Oh, so yours doesn't work because it's watercolor?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it's your pencil.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
If you wanted us to draw on it too.
Either charcoal or soft lead, either one. All right. The main reason people can't draw is because they this sounds ironic, but I'm actually being literally correct. People literally cannot see what their eyeballs are pointed at. Okay? They literally cannot see what their eyeballs are pointed at. Now that sounds so crazy because you're looking around saying, what are you talking about? I can see everything my eyeballs are pointed at. Well, in just a minute you'll see what I mean. You realize, oh no, they're not. Our eyes were ingeniously created or evolved. I go either way. I don't have a dog in that fight, so okay, I'll go back and forth, use terminology either way. But our eyes are absolutely brilliant. They're connected to our mind, our brain, and then our mind in such a way so that our eyes do their job burning as little energy as possible. Our eyes, and when I say eyes, most of the time I'm really talking about the seeing part of our brain. Our eyes do their work. Well, what is their work? The number one function of our eyes is to keep us alive. So congratulations, if you're here this morning, it's because your eyeballs have been doing, and your brain have been doing a bang-up job your whole life. That's why you're here, because your eyeballs are keeping you alive. And one of the ways they go about the business of keeping you alive is by burning up as few calories as possible in order to get the job done. Your eyes are really designed to do like all the rest of us, to do as little work as possible and just get by, okay? And that's why at many points throughout this week, you're going to be exhausted because you're going to be asking your eyes to work. And your eyes are going to go, hey, wait a minute. And you say, shut up, eyes, work. I'm tired of working. I know you're tired of working. You're going to be that mean football or basketball coach. One more lap, talking to your eyeballs. Nancy and I have 4 grandchildren living with us, right, and their parents. Have for the last year and a half. That's why Nancy's here. And right now, they're ages 2, 4, 6, and 8. So, and we love it. The saddest day in the world is going to be the day they move out. And the happiest day in the world is going to be the day they move out. They are going to move out, but we are loving it. And one thing in particular that I'm enjoying is watching this, second time around. Nancy and I had 2 kids biologically and then adopted 2, so we raised 4 kids, but we only had 2 from infancy. So it's been really fun watching, and as a grandpa, you're just one step removed, so you can just enjoy the process a little bit more. You're not afraid they're going to blow up and die any second, like you were when they were your own, So I've been enjoying watching these little minds developing. It's just absolutely fascinating. And I'm confirmed on several counts. As soon as we come out of the womb, our brain, I heard the number sometime in the last year on some scientific podcast, and I forget what the number is, but it was one of those more than you can ever comprehend. Like our brain is developing, 4 trillion new synapses every minute. I mean, it was just such a ridiculous number. I have no idea if that's right. It might have been 4 billion, but who cares? My brain can't imagine that anyway. But it was literally an unbelievable number. What our mind is doing, really our brain is doing, from especially in infancy. And again, we've watched this little one go from 6 months to 2 years now since he's been with us. And just fascinating to watch. So I want you to put yourself back in the mind of yourself or your grandchildren or children when they're from 0 to 2 years old. And I want to describe for you, first of all, a scenario. We have, like many of you, we have a coffee table in the middle of our living room. Who'd have thought? And what's a coffee table have on it? Or remote control and junk. Never coffee. I mean, 4 times it said coffee table. Our feet has our feet on it. We have one of those feet up coffee tables, Some of you maybe have, don't put your feet on that, but not at our house, of course. So it looks something like this. I'll just be very approximate, of course. I'm just drawing one corner of it so you get the idea. All right, and there's a shadow Our coffee table has a shadow under it. and it's made out of very expensive pine. It's pine wood, so it's got a wood grain, and again, it's got a shadow, usually something like that, and it's got a shadow, on the ground. And if I took more time, I could do a better job. You got the idea, right? All right. So we have right now a 2-year-old. Well, I take him 6 months ago or a year ago, really 7 months ago, when he was learning to walk and he was toddling around. He was just, maybe even including his crawling time. Yes, he did hit his head at least one time on the coffee table that I can remember. He probably hit his head more than once on the coffee table. And while his brain is making these 3 trillion synapses per minute, one of the things his brain registered was, oh, don't hit your head on the coffee table because it hurts, okay? So visually, and I'm being facetious here, visually, he filed away in his little brain, okay, don't hit your head on this thing that looks like this. And it's got little wood grain in it, and it's got a shadow in it, and it's got a further up piece and an in piece, and it's got a turned leg. We'll learn about that word someday. It's got this round, and it's got a shadow. True or false? Is that what his brain did? False. That is not what his brain did. Now, his brain did say, don't bang your head on this thing because it hurts, okay? But what did his brain file away? What picture, what image did his brain file away in order to get by in life? My point is, it was nothing like this. This is way too many burning calories. His brain filed away probably something sort of like that. Does that make sense? I call this, the long term is an SSSOS, believe it or not, okay? That stands for Super Simple Survival-Oriented Symbol. Or if you just want to take the last SOS, it's a survival-oriented symbol, and you just have to remember the super simple part, okay? So this is what our brain does from the moment of who knows what. There's even good possibility that well before birth, our brain starts recording stuff. Our brain starts filing away. And I'm going to use this term, and I guess my imaginary filing cabinet is going to be over here. Our brain starts building this massive 3 trillion synapses per minute. I don't know if that's the right number. Go Google it. It's still some number I can't imagine. But truly an astronomical number. Our brain starts filing away, packing in information. Information to do what? To stay alive. And I don't know if any of you saw the movie Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey, right? And Morgan Freeman is God, and they're upstairs in this big white warehouse. And Morgan is introducing Jim to what it's like to be God. And he walks over to a filing cabinet. Do you remember? This is the scene. And he flicks the switch on the filing cabinet door, and the drawer goes, and it shoots out like 100 yards out into and it's just suspended there in space, just hanging this massive filing cabinet, okay? Remember that picture? You can imagine it if you didn't see the movie. Okay, that is your brain. Those are all the SSSOSs that you've filed away, packed away. Thousands and thousands, maybe millions and millions of images that help you get by. That's how you survive. So let me repeat myself. Your eyes do their job by not doing their job. Your eyes do their job by seeing something once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, and going, okay, we got this. And then ignoring it for the rest of your life. Because now we can't remember what it's like to be a little infant, toddler, crawler, creepy thing. Creepy thing. You know what I mean? Creepy crawler thing. But we can, there's at least 2 periods in our life where we can remember how this feels. At least for me. And I think unless you grew up, okay, wait a minute. Unless you grew up on a farm and you were driving a tractor since age 5, which happens on the farm, but anybody here do that? Yeah, several. Yeah. Okay, you don't count because you did it. You started. The rest of us, do you remember driver's ed? Now, the class part was a piece of cake. We were all just horsing around, yeah, whatever. My driver's ed teacher was Charlie Brown. That was his name. That's what I remember. We thought that was so funny. His name was Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown taught me how to drive. So we're all sitting there with the class, going through these books, watching these, back in my day, 16 millimeter movies, All that's fine. But then the day finally comes, we get behind the wheel of a car, right? And all of a sudden things get really serious, really fast, like, oh! Of course, as a boy, you'd never let that be seen. You're acting cool. Don't worry, girls, I got this. Inside you're going, oh! And then you start driving, right? And the picture starts moving. Oh! And what do you look at? There's way too much. Does anybody remember that overwhelmed feeling? Yeah. Oh, I could go on, but I won't. I could be real self-effacive and show you how stupid I was. I was so bad. But anyway, that was me, and I remember that. And so that's what it feels like to live in a world where you don't know what to look at. Where actually we're being bombarded by so much information that it's just overwhelming. The other time, this only applies to some of you. How many of you can remember, and some of you haven't done this yet, how many of you can remember your first time plein air painting? Okay, now I know, unless you're some kind of freak, when first time you got your whatever it was, your easel set up in your canvas, and you look at that canvas and you'll go, more! It's just like, all of a sudden you realize that it's just megatons of information coming at you that you don't know what to do with, okay? Again, so the way we get through life is we turn all of those moments into SSSOSs, super simple survival-oriented symbols. That lets us get through. By the way, how many of you drove here this morning? Most of you probably, yep. And even those of you who rode with somebody else, were you in sheer terror? Probably not. You're probably more in danger of falling asleep than you were. We can hurtle down the highway literally at 80 miles an hour with this megaton piece of steel and next to other people that are doing 80. And our biggest danger is falling asleep. That's actually kind of funny when you think about it. Our grandparents would have been terrified out of their skulls, Ah! But no, why? Again, because our eyes they know how to do this. Don't worry, we got this. And the way they do it is by turning every single thing in our field of vision into an SSSOS. Now, just for fun, you've never heard this term before, but you've seen these images, you've seen SOSs your entire life. Does anybody remember? Now, this is kind of a trick question, so be careful. Does anybody know how a 3-year-old draws Mama? Does anybody remember? Good.
Stick.
Not quite stick figure. That's usually a 5 or 6-year-old.
It's a circle with arms.
There you go. That's right. There's no sticks yet. Where do the legs come? Right straight out of the head. That's right. And where do the hands come from? Right out of the head. And then there's eyes and and hair. Oh, the first time I got to tell you, since you see my wife there, she's 4 now, but she was 3, and all our kids, of course, all kids draw, so they're just drawing all the time. And the 3-year-old girl, when we finally figured out who these people were in her drawings, so her name is Nana, and here's what Nana looked like. That's Nana. and Bigka, and there's Bigka. Oh my goodness! So we just howled. So we went back through all her a bunch of previous drawings. And just laughed ourselves silly. This is Nana with the spiky hair. Oh, man. Sometimes they're nice and they give me hair that I don't really deserve. Way to go, kid. Okay, so that's a 3-year-old. Let's go forward a little bit. That stick figure, that would be a 4, 5, 6-year-old. even older than that. How about, how does a 6, 7, 8-year-old draw a house? You all know it. What's a house? A square? Triangle on top. What else? Chimney, like this. What's coming out of the chimney? Smoke, yeah. And doors, windows? Yeah, right in the middle, door. And windows like this with it, right? Something like that. Maybe 2 windows, right? And what else? What's beside the house? A tree. What's a tree look like? A lollipop, exactly. How about, is there sun? And where's the sun? Right in the corner, like this. See, you guys know all this. You really do. What does a mountain look like? What's a mountain look like? Triangle, maybe with some snow on top. Maybe there's always a range. There's the kid in the class that's a little bit ahead of everybody else. That was probably most of you. What else can we talk about?
A sidewalk that comes straight down like a ladder.
What does?
A sidewalk that comes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right. That's right. Exactly. Very good. You got it. Okay? Those are all reflections of our SOSs. Now, again, the reason people can't draw very well is because as soon as they say, or as soon as someone says to them, okay, boys and girls, today we're going to draw a boat. Can you tell me, with reference to my filing cabinet, what happens? The filing cabinet flies open, say, boat, we have boats. We have a boat, B-O-A-T, boat, and they pull up the filing cabinet. This is what their brain does. And before they can even begin to think clearly about what their eyeballs are pointed at, lo and behold, they've got a boat. Da-da-da-da. Something like that, right? I mean, really, probably something like that. And you might think I'm kidding. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. But more than once. In fact, one time I was in Morehead City, which is dangerously close to here, but nobody you know. And she remained unnamed. But I did say, as a matter of fact, today we're going to paint boats. And one of the ladies in the class, this is 10 years ago or more, she said, that's the one thing I just can't draw. And of course, I mean, I wasn't saying we're going to draw boats out of our head. I mean, I had a picture of a boat. It was this boat we're going to draw right here. But when she said, that's the one thing I just can't draw is boats. What was she telling me? What was she telling me? That, like old Mother Hubbard, when she got to her, when she went to her cupboard, the cupboard was bare. In other words, she's saying, my SOS file doesn't have a good boat in it. That's what she was telling me. Now, while we're on the subject of boats, likewise, I mean, I've probably got one here. I won't try to, oh yeah, there we go. In fact, this might have been the very boat we were painting. No, it wasn't. That came later. But it was a picture like this. And again, I am not kidding. We were doing a painting of this boat in a class, and I got around to one of the students, and we weren't drawing. This is a painting class, and this is the canvas, and one of my students, that was their attempt at drawing this. Literally, I am not kidding, not exaggerating one bit. They were looking at this, and this is what was on their canvas, okay? So let me tell you what's going on here. I've mentioned SSSOSs many times. Our brains, the seeing part of our brain, does its work by not working. That's what we're seeing at work here. It takes energy, like smoke coming out of your ears, kind of grinding gears, energy, to look at this and start drawing it. It's like, that's hard work. I didn't know we were going to work in this class. And so the lazy way out of working is going to your filing cabinet, just pulling up the image. I've had the very same thing happen with a mother and daughter team one time years ago, and I had a beautiful, National Geographic-ish photograph of mountains and streams and, mountains. And I am not kidding. This was one of those week to week classes, and both the mother and the daughter came back the next week. I'm not saying this to pick on, to say, aren't they stupid? My point is to say, this is humanity. This is what we do. I'm not kidding. They did come back the next week with that painted. Literally. I mean, it was no more close to, than this is to that. Anyway, do you get the idea? So left to our own devices, our eyes refuse to see. No, I'm not going to do that. So to ask your eyeballs to start looking and seeing what they're pointed at, this is what you'll get from your eyeballs. Says who? Big boy, big girl. So you have to slap yourself down and say, no, this is going to be hard work. We're going to do this. We're going to look. We're going to see. And so let me be a little bit more realistic. So what happens really is you and we start drawing. And okay, so like let's say the first thing we see is this curve right here. So we dutifully stick out our tongue. And we draw that curve. And then we see that there's almost a vertical, right? Not vertical, almost vertical, like pointing at 3 minutes till the hour. Are you with me? If it's a clock, So we dutifully, again, stick out our tongue and draw that line. Okay, flash forward 15, 20 minutes. Now we've got 47 and a half different lines on our canvas, on our piece of paper. And here's what our brain is doing now. It's like, all right, that's close enough. It's close enough. And we're up here. Now we're up here and all this stuff up here. Now there's two boats here. There's one back here with that stuff there. First, it took our brain 14 tries to figure out that there's two boats in the picture. I'm just telling you what your brain and my brains do. Oh, well, you didn't say there's two boats in the picture. Why did you? So then we're trying to get, and it gets really complicated. I know, I wish you had this up close, but you can imagine from back there, it gets really complicated. Okay, so 15, 20, 25 minutes into the project, what does your brain do? Oh, darn. Probably something stronger than that. It's close enough already. And you just start making marks. Are you with me? I know how you think. Because I think exactly the same way. We just get tired and say, that's close enough. And ladies and gentlemen, ladies, that's why you can't draw. Now, I'm not saying you can't draw. Do you understand? I'm not really picking on. Some of you may be fabulous drawers. And if so, I've just described what it is that you do that sets you apart from everybody else. Is somehow that's not the only thing, but that's a huge thing. That's the biggest part. Somehow you have the capacity to grab a hold of your eyeballs, so to speak, really the seeing side of your brain, and harness it and say, no, sit down, shut up, we're going to work. No, we're not done yet. We're going to keep working. No, we're not done yet. We're going to keep working. Whereas most of your fellow artists have gone, and they have quit working, okay? So that's what it means to be a good drawer. You have to learn. Now, when I say you can't see what your eyeballs are pointed at, it has, in a minute we're going to talk about the whole left brain, right brain thing. But as soon as you say a word, in this case like boat, or as soon as a teacher says for you the word boat, your filing cabinet flies open. And usually if you're standing in front of the filing cabinet, punches you in the gut, which distracts you also. And up pops the image out of your filing cabinet. And when you're looking at the photograph, you have two things. This is so literal. I hope you'll believe me, because I am telling you the truth. You have two pictures fighting for your attention. Like they're both socking you in the face. One is this picture, and the other is your SSSOS of a boat. And there's like a wrestling match between these two images. And again, when you get to the point where you just go, the hard work is getting too hard, you're just exhausted, at that point you drop this and say, okay, what the heck, I'm going with the filing cabinet. Do you hear me? That's what we do. So there's a couple things we can do to overcome that. Yeah, let's do an exercise. Finally, you're going to draw a little bit. I want you to get your pencil and paper, or my pencil and paper, as the case may be, and follow along this process step by step. Now, this is a mental, what we're about to do for the next, 15, 20 minutes is a mental exercise disguised as a drawing exercise, but it's really mental, okay? And at several points, I'm going to be kind of mean. But hang on, I'm going to tell you when I'm being mean so that it won't hurt quite so bad, okay? First of all, please take just this, and again, this is stupid and way beneath you, but please take your pencil and draw a black dot somewhere. Or I should say, draw this. Draw this on your white paper that I gave you. I don't care how you do it. This is not hard, and I'm not being fussy. Okay, now next thing you're going to do is, again, this is way beneath you. You can use the dot, incorporate the dot in this next drawing, but draw a line. Okay, a horizontal line. Oh, you can do it with one stroke if you want, but draw one of those two things. Okay, you with me? Now, it's going to get a little more complicated, and I'm almost being mean. Not quite. I'm going to go to a clean page here, by the way. Okay, take a minute and draw that. Now, when I say take a minute and draw this, at any point during this little exercise, you are allowed to say to me, if you had given me more time, I could have done a better job, and that's a valid excuse. Okay? But take a minute and draw that.
Using what we're going to.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no, you can either use the line you've already got. Either one. Good question, Ricky. Good question. Either use the line you've already got or start another one. Either one. And I gave you several pieces of scrap paper. I think you have plenty for this drawing portion of our class. And if anybody runs out, ask me, find more for you. Okay, so draw that. And I'm not going to give you much time because this is not that hard. But I'm being ever so slightly mean. And when I say I'm being mean, it's because I'm not giving you enough information, which you will begin to see more and more.
Are you tilting it deliberately?
Thank you, good question. I just straightened it out a minute ago, and then it re-tilted itself again.
I redid my thing to reflect the tilt.
So either one, either reflect the tilt or not. Okay, that's enough time. Okay, how many of you would say, if you'd given me more time, I would have done a better job? Okay, good, that's everybody. Okay, now bear with me. There is method to my madness. Now, I don't want to see any of your drawings, but how many of you would say, even though you didn't have nearly enough time, but in abstract terms, the drawing you ended up drawing was actually closer to this than it is to this? Oh yeah, why? What was wrong with your pencil drawing? It was way too light. Okay, now how many of you said, yeah, but if you had given me more time, I would have ended up with that? Some of you would say that. The majority of you would never have gotten there. Okay, so there's meanness number one. One of the things there's a reason we're doing what we're doing here. Listen, it's to do an end run around your filing cabinet. Okay? Because when I ask you to draw this, your filing cabinet is empty. And so far it's not. Black square, that was in your filing cabinet. In fact, that is what most of you drew from. You didn't actually draw what you're looking at. You drew from your filing cabinet. Now, okay, well, draw that then.
So you're saying, I just drew a rectangle, but we should have colored it black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, now what's the difference? Don't draw this time, draw that. Now, I'll go ahead and break, what's the word? Especially those of you way at the back. This is really a challenge, a special challenge, because you're so far away, so it's actually quite difficult for you to even see this far, to see details at that range. But most of you are drawing from your filing cabinet right now. What is the name of the thing that you're drawing? What's in your filing cabinet?
Square.
Yeah, what color square? Gray square. Most of you are drawing gray square from your filing cabinet. I don't usually tell the class that. I'm being really, really not mean to you. Usually I save that till the end when you get all embarrassed and you discovered for 14 exercises in a row you haven't started using your eyeballs one time yet. Okay, but that's all about to change. I'm going to give you the accelerated version. Now, I'm sorry, way at the back. You may not even be able to see that. Can you see that there's a piece of gray paper stuck on a piece of gray paper? Yeah. Okay, now, let me confess, first of all, because I can tell this is such a sharp group, I just jumped 4 steps ahead of what I normally do. Normally, we tiptoe our way up to, and I just skipped a bunch of tiptoe. So I'm assuming that you all already know how to use your pencil as a painting tool rather than a liney tool. Okay, we all grew up on this as a liney tool. This is for outlining and drawing lines, but it's not just that. And some of you maybe have never used your pencil as a painting tool, but I'm assuming that most of you have. Okay, so way back there at the back, can you see that there's a piece of gray paper on a piece of gray paper? Okay, now here's what I guarantee: nobody has a filing cabinet with gray square stuck on gray. Nobody has a filing cabinet for gray paper, square gray paper stuck on a piece of same color gray paper. Uh-oh. So what are you going to do? Now you have to use your eyeballs. Now, if some of you at the back, I give you permission, if you want to walk up here for just a minute and look at it real close and then walk back, you may do that. And the assignment is, in fact, the assignment has been, ever since I put the black square up there, I stopped saying, and my language is way more subtle than you discerned, I didn't say draw a black square. Your brain said draw a black square. I said, and I quote, draw this. And now all of a sudden, if we went back and I said, draw this, oh, draw that, that's even better. Most of you would realize that you didn't do a very good job. Not only did you not draw the black square black, but that was because you didn't have enough time. Very few of you drew the shadow underneath the black square. Did anybody even think about drawing the shadow? Probably not. Okay, and that was mean on my, oh good, way to go. Yeah, Linda, because Linda's done this before. Thank you, Linda. There's the one honest soul. Okay, now while you're working on that, I don't know if this will work or not. Ooh, almost. Tell you what. So who knows what this will look like? Oh, there. Now, make your head go back and forth a little bit if you can. That's a piece of transparent plastic on gray paper. And depending where you are sitting and where the light sources are in this room, you are all going to be seeing different things. Now, it may be that from where you're sitting, this is a lot easier. If you aren't getting any reflection, all you're getting is a piece of darker gray square. And oh, you know what? You'll feel very relaxed about that. Why? Because your filing cabinet has that in it. Darker gray square in a lighter gray background. Does that make sense? If you can say it real simply with your words, then you don't have to use your eyeballs at all. You go, oh, I got this one. Did you hear what I just said? If your feeling is, I got this one, The reason you feel that way is because you're not using your eyeballs, but you're using your filing cabinet. Oh, I got this. It's because you've simplified it and you're doing natural human behavior, which is, thank God I don't have to work hard and look at stuff. I can just draw it out of my head. Oh, I can draw this out of my head. By the way, every once in a while, like online, speaking with this is a slight tangent, but you see artists online that boast like, and I painted this out of my head. And they think that that's a good thing. And as a pretty good artist myself, I would say, shh, no, you're just showing dumbness. You're showing ignorance. No, don't brag that you painted this out of your head. That is not a good thing. That's what everybody does. That's the artist being lazy, by the way, painting out of your head. And it's great fun, and I do lots of it, but I don't pat myself on the head and say, what a good boy am I. I say, shh, don't tell anybody I did this out of my head. Shh. That's me being lazy, okay? Is anybody done with the gray square on gray square yet? Is everybody done? Okay, good. How did you do that? So, by the way, some of you completely lost. How do you do this with a gray pencil or with a black pencil? You have to do shading and shades, right? In fact, in this case, you probably have to do two shading. You have to shade the background and the square. But somebody tell me, what are you seeing? What are you literally seeing? If you can see, let's take this one off for right now. If you can see the gray square on the gray paper, what is it that you're seeing? An L-shaped shadow, right?
Mine's to the right of the ball.
Okay. Anything, very good. Anything else besides?
White highlight on the top.
There you go.
And there's a lighter gray, a little bit darker gray on the left side. If you go up close and look at it, like you can't see it from here.
No, and from where I sit, I think there's like a finger smudge right there. Can you see that slightly darker edge?
Also, there's a shadow by the triangle from my perspective, where the triangle, the back
The
piece
corner.
of paper, that corner is jutting out, and there's a dark.
Oh, you talking about up here?
No.
Right here.
Top left.
Here?
No.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh, you're drawing all the way up there? Oh, okay. Okay, you're doing extra credit. Good for you. Good for you. I didn't mean to draw all of this. I was just observing. But that's all right. That's quite all right. You're doing a good job, and you're exactly correct. So thank you. Yeah, you're just working harder than you have to. But that's all right. Okay, does that make some sense? I don't know that we need to do much more of this. You can imagine in other classes, I've done things like, and this is actually a little bit easier. Okay, now that's a piece of foam core, but it's white on white again. And most of you probably don't have in your filing cabinet, white thick thing on white background. So the only way you can draw that is so let's just describe that. Just take a few minutes for those of you who are still, some of you may be still catching up. I don't get it. What are you doing? What we're doing is using our brain to actually literally see what our eyeballs are pointed at, because you don't have one of these in your filing cabinet. Does that make sense? So this is like you at driver's ed, first day driver's ed, or it's like you at plein air painting for the first time or whatever. You have to use your eyeballs. See, that's what your eyeballs do. They want to look at something once and then file it away and never have to look again. From then on, it's just glance. And again, that's how we stay alive. Yes, Ricky?
The gray one that you just took off.
Yes.
Is it a true square or is it?
Yeah. I would not guarantee at all. Okay. No, that looks like a true square. I think that is this one. Is that the one that was up there?
Yeah.
I think.
The white one looks like a
Yeah.
square, but the other one's
Yeah. And very good. If you discern that it wasn't. Okay. So tell me, some of you, describe for the rest of us, what is it that you are seeing here?
Shadow at the bottom.
And more descriptor, more descripting. What kind of? Let's stick with the shadow at the bottom. But is that the end of the story? See, you have shadow in bottom is in your filing cabinet. So once you go that far, you go, oh, I don't have to look anymore, just shadow. No. Describe that shadow in more detail.
The darkest part is right up against.
Actually fades out, right? Pretty far. I mean, there's a real soft line down there. Can you see? And a pretty hard line right there. Okay, how about, and the sides, we are all seeing something different, right? What about the top?
Lighter.
Right. And is there, in fact, reflection of the top shelf up onto the white background. Can you see that? Yes, there is. Now, and how would you do that with a pencil? By the way, we didn't focus on
Work on the
pencil art. Yeah, you have to shade the whole thing with pencil. And again, if I gave you 2 hours, you could do a bang-up job. But of course, we're not going to do that. Do you understand? But you could use your pencil as a shading tool, and probably using a blender of some kind. You know, one of these, or your finger, or an eraser, or a tissue, or you know, all these tools that I have here to do things like that with. Whew. Okay, does that make some sense? Okay, that's how it feels for your eyeballs to actually look at something. Now, let's change gears slightly, because you're still not necessarily crackerjack drawers, but we're going in the right direction. Let's pretend that I gave you an assignment of drawing the most complicated thing in the room that is the most complicated thing in the room that is not one of your fellow students. Do you know what that is? The answer is me. Okay, so I'm hiding behind tables back here. I'm kidding. I'm not. Okay, now if I just said, after that little exercise with all the gray squares, if I just stood here and said, okay, go, draw me, in 20, 30 minutes, I want to see a pretty darn good portrait of me on your paper. How many of you would say, yeah, I got it. This is a home run. No problem. No, most of you go going, I didn't sign up for this. Right? All right. Why? Because somehow there's okay, so at least we've talked about getting rid of the filing cabinet. We haven't done it yet, but at least we talked about it. We talked about what it feels like. How many of you, I will tell you the truth, if I said, okay, draw me, and I'm going to be a little more dramatic pose than just this. If I say, okay, draw me, you're screwed. Yeah, because your brain is just going, right? Okay, welcome to the club. You're normal, you're normal, you're normal. Why is that the case? Because I'm the most complicated thing in the room other than your fellow students, or Jan, who's not technically a student, but okay, Jan, you're next. You're gonna, no, okay, you need some help breaking this down. Now, let me tell you what will do you more harm unless you're, and is anybody here, you're actually studied human anatomy, figure drawing quite a bit? Okay, a few of you? Yes, somewhat. Yeah, you don't have to be shy, just somewhat. Let me get down off my high horse and tell you a little bit about this. So this filing cabinet, if you become an artist, or the more artistic you become, you actually begin to transition your SSSOSs you turn this filing cabinet into a reference file. Now there's a difference between, what I talked about my grandson, he sees a table. There's quite a difference between that and, say, the table that I drew when I was being facetious, with turned legs and shadows and wood grain and so on. Where did that come from? That came from my filing cabinet. That came from my reference file. I've now turned my filing cabinet into a reference file. And by the way, this is what ordinary humanity, at least in the West, I have no idea about Stone Age cultures or Asian cultures, but in the West, this is what is meant by an artist. And I'll make a lot of references to third grade. Okay, why? Just real quick, the reason all my grandchildren draw, when they hit about 8 years old, they'll begin to taper off. Because at age 8, on average, linguistic skills finally begin to eclipse artistic skills. And they'll discover, oh, you know what? I'm actually better at reading, writing, arithmetic, especially reading and writing and talking, than I am at drawing. So I put that childish drawing stuff away. Okay? And that's what most people do. So the great majority of people in America reached the apex of their art career in 3rd grade. I'm not kidding. Now, that's not like shame on them. No. Yeah, they can go on, become, very, very, very successful, effective, good, whole, balanced, effective, successful people. President of IBM or whatever. And they still are drawing stick figures. You hear adults say that all the time. Well, I can't draw anything better than a stick figure. And they're telling you the truth. Why? Because they quit. They put art behind them in 3rd grade. So in 3rd grade, the artist is the kid, and I was that kid, and some of you were too, the other kids can come up to them in 3rd grade and say, draw me a blank. For the girls, it's draw me a pony. And for the boys, it's draw me a gun, or draw me a race car, or draw me a jet, okay? And nowadays, it's like draw anime-ish figures, superheroes. But that's pretty much what it is. So some of you girls, you probably quit drawing horses in 3rd grade, and then you just started trying to catch up with your art career sometime later in life. I'm one of those weird, odd, unusual people who for some reason kept on drawing all the way past 3rd grade. I got past 3rd grade, want you to know. But one of the big shifts that happened in my life is way back in that era, I started replacing my SOS file with a reference file. I'll give you a crazy example. In 5th grade, by this time, my dominance in my class as the class artist was quite well established. But in 5th grade, we got a new teacher in the school who didn't know anybody. And she thought that Mikey was the 5th grade artist. I'm sorry, I'm this far in, I got it. But this is the difference between reference file and an SOS file. So me and Mikey, we had to have a drawdown. Because he didn't really know me either. And Miss Van Sweden, Dutch name, she was not a part of this, but she's what instigated it, because she made the mistake of thinking that Mikey was the class artist. And I was like quite offended. So I said, tell you what, what do you want to draw? He said, draw jets. Okay, let's draw jets. And rocket, like military jets. Mean looking, that shoot people and kill things. That's what boys want to do. So he drew his jet. During the same time it took him to draw the entire jet, I was still working on the landing strut. Now, because it just so happens that at that stage of life, I was really into models. And I had put together several models of jets. And I knew exactly what the landing strut looked like. It's got this little spring thing here and this little wing thing here. And this little... I had only finished one wheel in the time, so he threw in the towel. And my dominance was once clearly established. Once again. Now, the reason I'm telling you that, that sounds like I'm bragging about myself in 5th grade. No, that's a pretty silly story. But the point is, I had replaced my SOS with a reference. Darn it, I knew what jets look like. I mean, okay, so I was a weird kid, confess, but I'd put together models, really, really small, tight, real detailed models, which is also a tiny bit unusual for a 5th grader. Not extraordinary, but a little bit unusual, okay? So you replace. So if you want to draw me, so let me get back to here and how I got to this point. If you are the kind of person who has been working for a considerable amount of effort and time into your reference file, then I am not freaking you out. Because if you're like me, you can draw a figure almost with your eyes closed in your sleep. Because I've drawn tens of thousands of human figures. I've drawn hands, thousands and thousands and thousands of hands. Most of you have not. Okay, now, real fast disclaimer. You're here this week to have fun. The reason most of you are artists is because it's fun. And that's, okay. Now, I'm a little bit on a dangerous edge because I'm hoping that part of the fun is learning new stuff. But if I go too far over that edge, I become a killjoy, right? So, no, you do not have to draw hands 10,000 times before you get good at drawing hands. But yes, you have to draw hands 2 or 3 or 17 times and still have fun doing it. Okay, but I just want to explain why it does this. The prospect of drawing me would freak out different people to different degrees, and the people who would not be freaked out at are the ones who have turned their reference file, their SOS file into a reference file. Whew, that was a long way, but does that make sense? Yes. Okay, so for the rest of you now, let's talk about, let's just pretend nobody in here has really done a whole lot of anatomy drawing. Where would you start? Well, there's a number of things you can do. Things like start large and then go small. And while I'm on the subject, okay, if I'm standing here like this is a trick question. What is the largest shape that you see? Some of you will know this because you've taken art classes before.
The apron.
No. Now, granted, I don't know what you're seeing, Nancy, because armpit is a big... This is a trick question. The biggest shape you see is not my torso. It's the space circumscribed by my two arms and drawing line from there to there. The second, now, because I am wearing an apron, that does mess things up a little bit. That is probably the second biggest shape. Normally, it would be the A shape outlined by my legs. Let me. Okay, now real easy. So we just got simpler. What are the two biggest shapes you see? Yeah, a V and an A, right? Yeah. Got it? Okay, that's first of all, way to go. That's a huge improvement. That's how to think like an artist. All the non-artists, not you anymore, everybody else would say, oh, his torso, that's the biggest thing. But that's not the case. Now, what's the biggest thing you see now? Torso. I'm a guard at Buckingham Palace. I'm an exclamation point, that's all I am, or a capital I or something, okay? There, now, but if I'm like this, what's the biggest shape now? Diamond shape, or whatever, square and angle, right? Same thing, and if I put one leg out like this, and you have to decide at what point and some of you have a hard time seeing down here, but those are the kinds of things you're looking for, big shapes. Now, let me get down carefully. I have here a little exercise. Carol, would you mind handing these out to this half of the class? And Nancy, one of you Nancys, would you mind handing out to this half of the class? So if I were able to summarize, and I need a drink. All right. All right, I do want to keep moving. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on drawing, but I feel like this is important. Most of your mistakes as a painter are drawing mistakes. I don't know you, but again, the proverbial 99%, okay? All I've established so far is that your eyes don't see like you think they do. Your eyes, their job is to be lazy. So if you want to be an artist, you're asking your eyes to do something you're not used to doing. And the thing that blocks your vision more than anything else is your SOS file. But your SOS file can be replaced little by little by looking and copying and drawing things. It can be replaced, turned into a reference file. Now, this is huge. If I can pull your attention away from that handout just for a minute, I'm going to delve into physiology a little bit, and I'll confess right off the bat that I'm know just enough to be dangerous. But I'm going to use our common nomenclature, our common, that's a brain. You thought it was a heart, that's a brain. There, we're getting it looking more brainy. What am I drawing out of right now, by the way? What am I drawing out of? No, my SOS file. It's just like a stupid brain. Right? I don't know that I've ever really studied how to draw a human brain. No, so I think this is just, that's why it's such a bad drawing. Medulla oblongata. I did not pass 8th grade for nothing. Right hemisphere and left hemisphere, that's what we want to talk about. In our culture, we're pretty familiar with the concepts of right and left hemispheres and the difference between the two. And I know enough to know that the differences aren't all that they're always cracked up to be. If we had a real brain scientist, anybody here a real brain scientist? I'm not kidding. People sneak into these art classes. Okay. So I confess ignorance, but this is general. In order, okay, so now let me read. Identify the shapes. Unless your right brain is talking to your left brain, maybe I should really say, unless your left brain is talking to your right brain, I think I should make that change here. And it is your left brain that comes up with words. You ain't seeing nothing, okay? Again, I know how people draw or don't draw. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. Let's go, let me just use this example again of a boat. Will that stay there? Nope, doesn't matter. I feel like I can see people's brains working. And I know this because, trust me, ladies, every mistake you've made, I've made 10 times. That's how, if I've gotten any good at art, it's because I've made all the mistakes you've made even more so. Okay? So here's what happens. The assignment is draw this boat, paint this boat. Start by drawing this boat. And you start out, as I said, you see a curve and you draw it, and you see a line and you draw it, and you see another line and you draw it. And at some point, you just get tuckered out. And you throw in the towel and you say, oh, heck, for the rest of the small details, close is good enough, okay? And then all the rest of us are looking at your painting of the boat, and we're not saying anything because we're your friends, but we're kind of going, she kind of messed up over there. She said that part's not right at all. Okay, you know that's the way you feel, and we all do that. Okay, what happened is that at some point in the drawing process, drawing ordeal, I'll say that, you got tired of naming stuff. And you tried, if I may exaggerate slightly to make the point, you started drawing entirely out of the left side of your brain. Now, I love Betty Edwards drawing out of the right side of the brain, and I agree with her, but it sounds like I'm contradicting her, but I'm not. The left side of your brain is, no, the right side of your brain. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. The right side of your brain is the intuitive, global, ooey-gooey, sensory side of your brain, intuitive side of your brain, right? That agrees with Betty Edwards. The left side of your brain, this agrees with her as well, is the analytical, mathematical, linguistic side of your brain. Are you with me? So this is a slight exaggeration, but for the purpose of this class, and this, I feel like this is how it actually works as an artist. It really does work this way. So your right side of the brain sees everything, absorbs it. But here, have you ever had this experience where you're looking at some little part of the drawing or the scene, and you look, and you have your brush in your hand or your pencil in your hand, and then you turn your eyes to your blank canvas, and you go blank. And then you look back here again, and you look, and you say to yourself, well, doggone it, surely I can draw that. Surely I can draw that thing, that shape, that thing right there. And then 1.5 seconds later, you're looking at a blank paper and you're blank again. Let me tell you exactly what is happening, okay? When you have that experience, you're trying to draw entirely out of the right side of your brain. Let me act out at the risk, no risk involved. I'm going to be stupid. At the risk of appearing stupid. No risk. Guarantee. I'm going to act like the right side of your brain. Okay? The right side of your brain is groovy and cool and sees stuff. Oh, I got it. We're seeing it. But the right side of your brain doesn't actually say that, because your right side of your brain, see, doesn't have any language. It's the left side of your brain that says, cool, we got this, and so on and so on. It's the left side of your brain that has language. The right side of your brain has no language, so it's going, no, whoa. And the right side of your brain is absorbing this thing you're looking at. And then you turn with your right side of your brain to your blank canvas, and your right side of your brain goes, woo. It lost it completely. Can anybody identify with that feeling? Okay. Here's in order to draw something, this is all human beings. If you want to be able to copy something accurately, you have to get both sides of your brain connected, engaged, and talking to each other. So let me reenact that little scene. Here we are over here, and the right side of the brain is going, whoa. And the left side of the brain is always kind of mildly disgusted with the right side of the brain. Righty. Are you trying to tell me that there's a, what would you call it, a little doohickey there? And the right side goes, oh, doohickey. And the left side says, there's a little doohickey there. Would you say it's kind of like a wedge shape? Wedge shape. Would you call it a wedge? Would you say that the wedge is kind of like, the bottom of the wedge is tilted about like this, maybe pointing at 10 minutes till the hour? And would you say the top of the wedge is down at an angle about like a ski slope? Your left side of your brain uses your filing cabinet as an example of things. And it says, oh, I remember when I was a kid, there was a ski slope like this. It doesn't matter whether that's true or not, but you have a picture in your mind. Would you say that the top of it is kind of like that one ski slope that you just about killed yourself on in 7th grade? Yeah, that's it. And so on. And then you say, okay, now, left side of the brain marches over here to the blank canvas that says, we got this. Done. Ta-da! Do you hear me? Do you see the difference? That is what non-artists don't do. That is what bad drawers don't know. Okay? That bad drawers try to draw entirely out of the right side of the brain. And then they come over to the blank canvas and they're completely lost. Whereas while they were over here looking at their reference, if they named things and labeled them with words, does that make sense? Well, it's shaped kind of like that one weird clock that my grandmother had. You see, that's the proper use of your filing cabinet, that one weird clock that your grandmother had on her kitchen shelf. I'm just making all this up. Do you understand? Some weird modern thing, I guess, I don't know, because she was in the 50s, right? You can do that, but you have to come up with words. Or you have to, as I've been doing, like compare it to the points on a clock, or compare it to some object in your history that if you are know geometry real well, you can say, well, that's a parallelogram and the something, and the hypotenuse of the triangle is, you can, whatever language works for you. We all have different filing cabinet things in our filing cabinet, whatever's there. But you have to turn it into words. Let me go back now to here. So if you had to draw me, and I'm like this, you see, if you're looking at me with the right side of your brain, and here's the thing, you feel like you are seeing me. Your right brain is in fact absorbing all the data. It's just not, it doesn't have it organized in such a way that it can output the data. Okay? So you can stare at me till you're blue in the face, say, oh, I got this. And then you turn to your blank canvas and go, oh, I don't got it anymore. That's because you're only in half your brain. You have to stare at me and start labeling things. Now, here's some labels that you cannot use. Arm, elbow, shoulder, hand, wrist, finger, thumb, torso, chest, cavity, legs. None of those work. Why? Because every time you say the word arm, what happens? Your filing cabinet flies open, punches you in the gut, knocks the breath out of you. You go, arm. And you're back to like stick figures, third grade arm. Unless you've done studies and you've turned your that into a reference file. As that is what you're in the business of doing as an artist. And how do you, by the way, did I make this clear? How do you turn it into a reference file? The answer is by looking at something in this analytical manner and copying it very carefully, which is smoke coming in your ears and you're ready for a break by 10:20 a.m. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you want to draw me, you're going to have to, you can't say arm, wrist, you can't say any anatomical parts unless you've got a really good filing cabinet in there, reference file, then you can. But even then, that'll mess you up because you won't be drawing my hand, you'll be drawing the one out of your reference file. So even that is, you have to be careful with that. So the kind of things your left brain is, and of course, we're all seeing, let's just take this part of this arm, and we're all seeing it from different angles. But you're gonna have to say, you can't say arm, can't say forearm, you can't say elbow, you're gonna have to, yeah, what time? You point it at a clock and say, and you might say, from where you were saying, it's like, okay, this side of my arm is I'm just saying, making this up because I can't see it. You say, it's almost perfectly vertical, but not quite. It tilts a little bit to the left. Now, it's almost perfectly vertical, but not quite. It tilts a little bit to the left. That was 15 words. Where do those words come from? Not from the amorphous intuitive right side of your brain. 15 words that the left side of your brain had to supply. Otherwise, you cannot draw this side of this arm. Does that make sense? Okay? So it is that talking back and forth that separates, if you will, the men from the boys, the women from the girls. It is that talking that makes you either a good drawer or not a good drawer. It's the fact that your left brain. Now, if I can jump ahead real quick, and you can say to me, well, do you do that? The answer is yes, but I do it now so quickly. That is the path that I've learned, but that channel into my left brain linguistic side is so slick and it's such a rapid fire. Yes, I do. More than probably any of you do, probably. But I do it very quickly because I draw a lot. So you can get better. So you don't have to take 15 words to describe. You can just go, and draw it. Does that make sense? Well, in the early stages, you have to take 15 words. It's almost perfectly vertical, but not quite. It slants a little bit to the left. I think that's more than 15. Okay? That's what you have to do. Don't even kid yourself and say, I don't have to do that. I can just look and draw it. That's what you think. We'll all be standing around your boat going, hey, she kind of messed up on it. Okay? Does that make sense? That's how your brain works. Now, I got one more really important topic to cover. That's all been really important. We're going to do another little exercise. And I've got it right around here somewhere. Break time. Here it is. Carol, you shouldn't have sat at the front. Would you hand those out to everybody on the side? Which Nancy did I pick on last time? Would you pass out one of those to everybody over there? I'm not sure. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just discovered I am 2 dry erase markers short. Yeah, pass those up. Yeah, thanks. So forgive me, I am 2 dry erase markers short. So if you don't mind, a couple of you share. If anybody, like maybe you ladies back there at the back who are close to each other, share your marker. Honestly, ladies, though, again, this is a mental exercise. You almost don't need the markers. This is mental.
Were all of these supposed to have all the words and stuff?
They're different.
They're all different.
Yeah. But here, I'll give you there. Oh, and we kind of skipped over this, didn't we? So this is like an exercise for the name it and claim it that I just talked about. In order to see something, you need to give it a name. And so I've done 2 of them for you over here. I called one, over here, I called one a Monopoly house. Now that doesn't, see, that's my filing cabinet. If you don't have any memory of what a Monopoly house looked like, that won't do you any good. This is only my filing cabinet. Same thing, even more so with the Seattle Seahawks logo tilted, pointing at 10 o'clock, right. So, but that's the proper use of the filing cabinet. I have a picture. It doesn't even matter if my picture's wrong. The fact is that's what's in my filing cabinet, so I can use it. Does that make sense? And if we took the next, I'm sorry that I forgot to come back to this. If we took the next 15 or 20 minutes, which we won't do because I just want you to get the concept, we would collectively as a class start naming all different shapes. I've heard things like lips, the capital M. The whole bag, by the way, what shape would you call the whole bag? A square. Yeah, exact. Bell, very good, yeah. And then start adding details to that to make it more detailed. Okay, now this piece of plastic. This is the last major category, so hang on. Are you okay? We'll take a break, and as soon as we're done with this. This is at least at this point in my journey, this is the last thing that I've discovered that non-artists don't get. And I'll act this out. I'll go back to, again, I was teaching in a room very much like this one time, and I was trying to get the students to understand that they could use a paintbrush or a pencil to get their angles right? You know this trick. If I'm painting, let's say I'm painting this view right here, I can hold my brush up to the bottom row of lights from here and hold it up and go, okay, that's the angle right there. And then, do you see? So that's where that row of lights would go. The top of the window is an angle about like this. So the top of the window, now I'm showing you how to draw. This is parallel to the left side of your brain doing analytical things, right? But now it's not linguistic analysis. Now it's like geometry analysis. Okay, so I was doing this, and I said to the students, now hold your brush up parallel to the intersection of the wall and the ceiling. And they went like this. Now, do you see what they're doing that's different from what I was expecting them to do? I was expecting them to go like this. But instead, they went like this. They actually held their brush or pencil up in three-dimensional space parallel to the intersection between the wall and the ceiling. And that doesn't do them any good. Okay, so I have to introduce a whole new concept. And it's called, this has a name, it's called the plane of vision. Okay? And if you hold this up in front of your face, kind of close, and look at it, point in any direction you want, that is your plane of vision. Now, do pick up your marker there. And this is going to be quite a athletic trick because you're going to try to hold this still, your head still, your head, your eyes, and this still. Close one eye and start tracing the big shapes that you see in the room in front of you. Just trace with that marker. I don't have a marker, so I can't do it, but I'm doing it with my pencil. You can do it with your finger or your pencil, but if you have a marker, use the marker. Now, how many of you understand that if you had one of these with you when you went out painting, that could actually help you quite a bit get your painting done? It would, and some people do that. I paint with Mike Rooney quite a bit, and he actually does this kind of thing quite a bit. He'll hold up a piece of plastic and trace it out real quickly. Okay? What you are drawing on right now is the plane of vision. What you are seeing, where this plastic is the plane, P-L-A-N-E, like a geometry class, plane of vision. Okay? I want you to kind of feel how that feels visually and mentally, how that feels to have a plane of vision. Okay? Now put that down for just a second. I want to explain a couple things really quickly. Your plane of vision equals your plane of your canvas or your paper. Equals, same plane. When you want to draw or paint a picture, you're taking the plane of vision. If that's my scene, and of course this is wide angle, you understand, and this is telephoto, right? and you're transferring it to your canvas. Okay, so let that register. Now, if you would, put this down, and I know this is silly, but I want you with your hands. I want you to be like Marcel Marceau, the man in the glass box, and I want you to put your hands on your plane of vision. What happens if you look this way with your eyeballs? Well, then your plane of vision's over there. Okay, but normally speaking, just keep your eyes pointed straight. Whatever way your nose, just keep your eyes pointed straight. Whichever direction your face is pointing, your plane of vision goes with it. And forgive me, I know this is silly. I want that to sink deeply into your psyche. I want you never, ever again for the rest of your life not to be aware of your plane of vision. Okay, we're not done yet, but we can't go on till you understand that every time you look at the world around you, you're looking through this imaginary flat surface. Okay, you cannot draw or paint if you don't savvy this. You're lost as a goose. Okay, so let that sink in. Probably you've never thought about it before. Maybe you have, but very possible you haven't. Okay, so are you all aware of that? Now you can do it without any hands. Oh yeah, now I see it. That's the way I want you to feel. Oh, I never thought about that before. But you're right. If I wanted to paint this view, I would have to imagine that's my plane, and I'm cutting my canvas or my piece of paper, whatever I'm drawing on. That's what I'm drawing right there. Are you with me so far? Okay? Now, if I say to you, hold your brush up against the angle, where does your brush go? You don't break through your plane of vision. No, you smack your brush down right flat on your plane of vision. Does that make sense? You don't break it. It doesn't go crooked this way. You don't push your brush or your pencil through the plane of vision. You slap it right up smack on the plane of vision. And that's what I learned when ladies in my class went, oh yeah. And I went, something's wrong here. Because they didn't have any concept of this plane of vision. Once you have that, then you can use this method to get angles right. So it only works, this method is, I use it all the time. I paint cityscapes, all the buildings all the time. And I use it all the time. I mean, it's not the only thing I use, but you know what I mean, the normal sense of the word. If I want to see the angle of that building, but you understand it doesn't work if I break the plane of vision. This has to be slap smack against the plane of vision, and this is a stick out your tongue kind of time. This is like close one eye. Okay, so if I'm painting that picture right there, the angle of the ceiling to the wall is like that. Does it make sense? Okay? That is what non-artists can't do. They cannot translate three-dimensional space. Once again, your eyes are brilliantly made for keeping you alive in three-dimensional space. And making the quantum leap, sort of, from three-dimensional space to two-dimensional space is a very artificial thing for your eyes to do. Don't feel bad if this is weird, I never thought about it. Of course you never thought about it. Unless you took whatever this is, weird drawing class. Does that make sense? So, observation, see with your eyes, keep your filing cabinet closed. Your left brain has to be engaged naming things with words. Your linguistic left brain analytical side needs to be engaged. And number 3, you need to understand the transition from 3-dimensional space to 2-dimensional space. Does that make sense? There. Now you can draw. It was so easy. Whoever, why did they tell us that in 2nd grade? Whew. All right. What do you say? Is it legal to take a break? Jan, is it legal to take a little break?
I think it's pretty legal, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did forget to mention that there's food up there and things to drink, coffee and some.
I'm assuming you all could see what we were doing with this.
When we did those tests
Yes.
in school, little kid,
Yeah.
why I enjoyed the spatial relationship, this to this, because I was saying, okay, that one has to turn to the right, and I was talking.
Yeah,
I was
talking. Yes.
It's turning to the right, and then, and I could pick out the matching.
Then it made
That's
sense.
why.
Wow. Cool. Okay. That's the end of drawing. We start painting after the break.